News at 7.
A political firestorm is on the way, and Washington is bracing for it as the IRS looks at the issue of taxing. Good evening, I'm Rahman Johnson, and this is Bounce News at 7. Now, this week, the Internal Revenue Service is expected to reveal the results of an investigation that shows the agency targeted conservative groups for special scrutiny. Now, the Tea Party and other conservative groups that rose to power early in the president's first term were unfairly targeted by the IRS. That is what they are saying, and some agency officials knew as early as June 2011. Now, according to an IRS audit that should be released this week, they're saying that some groups with Tea Party or Patriot in their names that had applied for tax-exempt status, they are ones that were specifically targeted. Now, according to the president in a statement earlier today, he said that if there was misconduct by the IRS, it won't be tolerated.
I don't care whether you're a Democrat, Independent, or a Republican. At some point, there are going to be Republican administrations. At some point, there are going to be Democratic ones. Either way, you don't want the IRS ever being perceived to be biased and anything less than neutral in terms of how they operate.
Now, despite protests by the groups, the IRS had previously denied any unfair targeting. Now, on the phone right now is Professor Alan Sachs, who's with the University of Texas at Austin. Professor, how are you?
Good morning, or good evening, rather.
I know
all the news, 3 big potential scandals all at one time, and I get mixed up.
It's like having a TV show.
Which scandal are we talking about now?
Exactly.
That's right.
Well, let's talk about the IRS specifically. They're saying that the president, or that it may have gone as high up the chain, maybe not all the way to the White House, but pretty high up. How do you take that? I mean, you're a professor and you understand this. What do you make of the IRS targeting groups that may have been conservative and saying that those are the groups that did not want the president reelected?
Well, it's not good. The president obviously came out with a statement today at a press conference, and that's exactly what a person would expect him to say. The IRS has apologized for it, but that may not be enough. This is a very important matter. You have to have trust in the government, and this does not do much to ensure trust. What is interesting is that a lot of people have always believed that the Internal Revenue Service, rightly or wrongly, has been used to target individuals, or in this case, perhaps groups, who disagree with accepted political policy at that particular time. And those charges, by the way, go back all the way to President John Kennedy, Lyndon Johnson, President Bill Clinton, Richard Nixon. And
that was the name I was going to say was the most infamous. One of the things I'm seeing on social media is the word over and over again that this seems, and I quote, Nixonian.
That's right, exactly. And in fact, if I remember correctly, one of the charges brought against President Nixon, he was never impeached, but by all accounts he was about to be impeached, is that he was going to use the Internal Revenue Service to target people that he did not like politically. And that was actually one of the charges that was leveled against him. So these issues, and so the American public, I think, is pretty cynical, and has been for a long time, about both Democrats and Republicans and their use of the Internal Revenue Service. Now, by the way, they all say they didn't have anything to do with it, and let's take their word for it. But if that's true, and that's a big if that's true, and I want to believe that it is still the duty of the executive office to make sure that all the federal laws and regulations are adhered to. And one of them is that there should be no government abuse. So even though the president says he didn't know about it, he's mad about it, of course, but still it's important for the president, who is the chief executive, to make sure that these kinds of issues do not arise.
Gotcha. Now, I have one quick question. We only have a few seconds left, and my quick question for you is, do we have, or is the executive branch doing enough? And should they be doing more? Should there be some firings now? Is the investigation enough? Very quickly.
Well, I hope that the President of the United States is telling the Internal Revenue Service, you have to find out who did this and bring them forward. And that would be an interesting thing that the president perhaps should have said at his press conference this afternoon. I'm going to order the Internal Revenue Service to find out who did this, whether it's lower-level people, as they say it happened, or higher-level people. Who did this? Bring them forward, and let's see exactly how they're going to be held accountable.
Thank you so much. Again, Professor Alan Sachs, University of Texas. We will be following this story completely as we move on. Again, the president is making a statement saying that he is directing the IRS to give more details. Again, thank you so much, Professor.
Thank you very much.
Now, the president discussed the IRS findings in a press conference, and he said that Russia had the responsibility during this conference also to end the violence in Syria. Now, Russia, of course, has supported the Assad regime through a civil war that left more than 70,000 people dead. And during that press conference, of course, David Cameron, who is the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, was with President Obama as he welcomed them into the White House. And the two leaders are holding talks on a broad range of issues, including Syria. They also discussed economic priorities and about the G8 summit that's upcoming. Now, Prime Minister Cameron will host the meeting that will happen this June in Northern Ireland. Now, tonight we're seeing new video from the first movement of those young women held in hostage in Cleveland, Ohio, once they found their freedom. Ariel Castro's brothers, once thought to be accomplices, have now been cleared, and they're speaking out for the first time. Now, a driver recorded parts of the rescue when police responded at the Cleveland home where 3 women were held captive, and they were held captive in this home for almost a decade, rather. Now, she says she watched in disbelief as cops rushed inside the house to rescue Amanda Berry, Gina DeJesus, and Michelle Knight. Ariel Castro, the alleged kidnapper and rapist, is now behind bars. His brother Pedro and O'Neill, who were initially suspected to be accomplices, have been completely cleared. Now, they spoke again for the first time since their arrest exclusively to CNN.
It's going to hunt me down because people are going to think, yeah, Pedro got something to do with this, and then Pedro don't have nothing to do with this. If I knew, I would have reported it, brother or no brother.
Now, the brothers say they're grateful that the girls are finally free and safe, but they're haunted by the missed clues in the media and then for receiving death threats over something that they did not do. Now, a Philadelphia abortion provider has been found guilty on 3 counts of first-degree murder. Dr. Kermit Gosnell was accused of killing babies by using scissors to cut their spinal cords. Authorities say that some of the infants were even born alive. Now, Gosnell, who is not board certified, who is not a board-certified obstetrician or gynecologist, was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter in the death of one of his patients. She was a 41-year-old who died from an anesthetic overdose. Now, the first-degree murder conviction means that Gosnell could face the death penalty. And down in New Orleans, police are looking for 3 gunmen after a shooting at a Mother's Day parade. Authorities say shots were fired into a crowd from multiple guns during a celebration on Sunday afternoon. 19 people were hurt, including 2 children, and police are saying that the injuries are not life-threatening. Now, authorities believe this was a random act of violence and not terrorism. They're offering a $10,000 reward for help in tracking down these suspects. Well, coming up just ahead on Bounce News, we've got so much more. You don't want to miss it. We'll be right back. Coming up on Bounce News tonight, it's been more than 4 years since O.J. Simpson was hauled off to prison. Tonight, we'll take a look at why he's back in the Las Vegas courtroom. It's just ahead. Talk about a bad day at the office. A routine implosion in Australia didn't quite go as planned. A demolition team used about 220 pounds of explosives to try and bring down a silo on Sunday in Red Bank. Now, there was a boom, there was some movement, but the building didn't move. I mean, it leaned to the side a little bit, but it didn't go anywhere. It leaned for about 40 minutes. Then finally they used a crane to push it over. You know, sometimes it just happens that way. And now it's time for you to get involved. We've been looking at what you've been saying all day on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and tonight we're going to talk about it. It's Say It and Post It. Now we want to hear your comments on the stories that you're talking about the most. Let's get started. It's O.J. Simpson. He was in court today trying to convince a judge that he deserves a retrial. That's for his 2008 armed robbery conviction because his former attorney mishandled the case, according to him. Now, the former football star is serving a 9 to 33-year sentence in a Nevada prison for that conviction. Simpson maintains that the night of the robbery in Vegas, he didn't know that the people that were with him had guns. Now, he's expected to testify on Wednesday. What do you think about OJ? Him being back in the news and back in for trial. Let's talk about it. And a Central Florida resident thought this was an elaborate Mother's Day gift, or prank rather. It was an 8-foot alligator on her front porch. Now, they called for help, and a trapper from Animal Planet's Gator Boys arrived on the scene and dragged it by its tail into the yard. The gator, of course, put up a fight. It's a gator. They even gave the gator a quick gator kiss. The animal was bagged and hauled away so it could be released in the Everglades. So what do you think about that Mother's Day prank? What would you, if you were a mom and your kid left a gator on your front porch? Not that cool. Well, we want to know what you think about it. Say it and post it. You can join the conversation online at bouncenews.tv or on Facebook, Bounce TV Tallahassee. You can also tweet us on Twitter at BounceTVTally and use the hashtag Say It and Post It. Again, we want to know what you're thinking so that you can join the conversation. More Bounce News at 7 is on the way. We'll be right back. There are millions of orphans in the world just waiting for a family. Tonight, we'll take a look at those who make foster care and adoption happen. We'll show you how they change lives. It's the perfect time to introduce our new series called A Dedicated Family. We'll highlight children in need twice a month, starting in June. But tonight, on Child Welfare Professionals Day, we salute all the workers who make foster care and adoption happen, showing you how they change lives. Amika Highsmith had a chance to sit down with them.
Meet 16-year-old Melissa, 7-year-old TJ, and Peyton, just 2. They may come from traumatic past.
We have biological parents who are incarcerated. We have biological parents who are on drugs. We have biological parents who are just absent, just gone, and nowhere to be found.
But these kids' faces still full of joy and innocence. And thanks to the Florida Department of Children and Families and their partners who care for almost 2,000 children in 12 counties from Tallahassee to Panama City, their futures are now full of hope.
Some of our kids don't have anyone that's in their life that care about them other than the people who work in the system.
Child welfare advocates like the executive director of the Children's Home Society and Tori Wilson with Big Bend Community-Based Care.
The #1 goal is to keep families intact.
Keeping children with their parents in the home or with a relative.
If we keep the kids in the home, then we're providing them with whatever services they need to keep the kids safe.
According to DCF, just in the last 4 to 5 years, there's been a more than 50% reduction in the number of children who need out-of-home care. But when keeping a kid with their families is not an option,
we want to keep them in their home community. We don't want them to lose their connections.
It's all about local homes for local kids. Right now, there are just under 100 foster homes in our region, but with 1,574 kids, 898 in-home, 676 out-of-home, McDonald's says it's just not enough.
When there's not enough foster homes, our kids have to go somewhere else. They may end up in Jacksonville or Orlando or wherever the case may be.
Making their transition even tougher. A situation child welfare advocates work hard to avoid, but they need your help. Whether fostering or ultimately adopting, the hope is that you open your home and give your heart.
Imagine if you're a senior and you're walking out on the field for senior night and you look and you have no one to walk with you. Or you make a big play out on the field or on the court playing basketball and you can't look up in the stands and see your parents. That's what some of our kids are faced with.
Miko, what a powerful piece. What did you learn? I mean, obviously, this is something that sometimes we don't look as deep into this as we should. What did you learn in sitting down with
just listen to what he said. What he said was powerful. I could not ever put myself in the shoes of a child who has, no family to be there and to support them during, major achievements. These are young kids who need their family. And when he said that to me, I mean, it's emotional because I could never go through that. I don't know how I would do that.
And especially coming off the heels of Mother's Day, and you think of, your mother's someone that you always see as being there, and these kids don't even have anybody to call mother.
Right.
So as parents go through this, or as foster parents and people who have the opportunity to go through this thing, get involved in the program, and I know you'll be going as you go through this series over and over, have you had a chance to check with any of the people who may want to get involved with the program and talk to them?
What do you mean?
Any foster parents who may be
not yet. I mean, obviously that's what we're going to do next, talk to some foster parents and adoptive parents to try and promote, and to get other people to do things like that. And then we'll talk to children and, you know, try to find them forever homes.
It's a riveting series. Thanks so much for sharing with us, Mika Highsmith. Now, you can follow along. Of course, the ultimate goal of Beyond Fostering is adoption, to help kids in the area find forever homes. Now, this new series will be coming up. You can follow Mika closely on our sister station, WTXL ABC 27, dedicated to you. We'll be right back. Some miners in Nevada say they've struck 21st century gold. Ahead, what could revolutionize solar and wind power? It's Science Chat with Casanova Nurse on the way. Now, some Nevada miners say they struck the 21st century equivalent of gold. They say this could revolutionize solar and wind power. Vanadium, a metal that can be extracted from shale rock and used to make powerful, long-lasting batteries for cars and homes and other utilities. And the battle to build a better battery is intensifying as the United States and other countries are faced with global demand for electricity and trying to reduce those greenhouse gas emissions that worsens climate change and looking to expand a carbon-free way of living. And this group is looking to find this renewable energy such as wind or solar power so that maybe one day that we won't have to rely on fossil fuels. So to talk about the new batteries is our chief science expert, Casanova Nurse. And Casanova, this is, and again, there is a metal called vanadium. This is not it. This is vanadium, which is a completely different metal. So tell us, I mean, is the battle to create the better battery, like how is it going and how can this really help us today?
Well, that's basically what it is, trying to find newer, better, more efficient ways to take energy, store energy, and then use it in the future instead of having sources such as the current day methods of fossil fuels and petroleum and things that are just burned through combustion and you can't gain them back. Solar energy, wind energy, things that could turn turbines and then harvest that produce energy into fuel cells, batteries. And that's been the quest for many years. And it seems like as new materials are tested, researched, and found to be effective, there are more efficient ways to achieve that goal of storing the energy.
Now, lithium was, I remember, it was cutting edge. To have a lithium battery meant that it was the thing to do. How does this new element differ as far as like charging times or being a little healthier for the environment as opposed to lithium?
Now, the preliminary evidence shows that maybe vanadium contained batteries may have a little more efficiency when it comes to storage and release. With some lithium batteries, you may have a good amount of recharging ability, but if it's left in storage, it kind of drains. Or if you recharge it too many times, you lose some of the life of the battery. So there are some setbacks and advantages to these various types, but the technology has really come a long way from the old zinc carbon batteries, which really had not a whole lot of energy over a lifespan, very short lifespan.
Well, I am curious, as I'm sure we all are, to see if this new 21st century gold find will be real gold or end up being like pyrite.
Yeah, give it a few years, we'll see.
Could be fool's gold. Thanks so much, Casanova Nurse, our Chief Science Officer. Our Your Best Life is on the way. We'll be right back with more Bounce News in just a moment. Tonight in Your Best Life, we talk about the power of I am. Ever notice that when you say I'm tired or I'm not feeling well, that maybe you become more tired and you feel worse? Well, megachurch pastor Joel Osteen's take on the power of I am could help you to empower yourself.
What follows these two simple words will determine what kind of life you live. I am blessed, I am strong, I am healthy, or I am slow, I am unattractive, I am a terrible mother. The I ams that are coming out of your mouth will bring either success or failure. Many times we use the power of I am against us. We don't realize how it's affecting our future. Here's the principle. What follows the I am will always come looking for you. When you say, I am so clumsy, clumsiness comes looking for you. I am so old, wrinkles come looking for you. I am so overweight, calories come looking for you. It's just like you're inviting them. Whatever you follow the I am with, you're handing it an invitation.
Powerful words, and that's just it. Words dominate our lives, but the question is, how do we use those words to be the most effective? So the lesson that I've learned on the journey has been to start right now. Don't wait, just take a moment and say it. I am talented, I am beautiful. Say what you are and then own it. Using words to benefit is another key to living your best life. I will leave a link to Joel Osteen's entire talk on our Facebook page. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. That is our show, and we look forward to hearing from you. BounceNews.tv, that's our website. That's the last word. I'm Rahman Johnson. Have an amazing evening.